What's poppin', what's poppin', what's poppin'? Welcome to Nicky and Moose. I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And today, man, you thought last week was good? This week, we got the one, the only person who really made the number one motivational speaker from a 3 to what he is right now. All right?
These are facts. These are facts.
You hear him in the background. Moose.
He's talking from behind the curtain. He's not even gonna wait to come on stage. He's just like, I'm gonna let y'all know this is true.
Yeah, let's just get into the intro. You hear him in the background. We talking about CJ. Get into the intro.
Come
on. 2 kids from Queens, cut from a different cloth. Now joining forces, helping you to elevate your personal brand. Yeah, I'm talking about Nicky and Moose, bringing you a never-before-seen perspective into the mindset, the mentality, the behaviors, the driving force, but more importantly, the stories behind the people and brands that you know and love the most.
All right, before we go into him, I gotta shout out the review of the week. I promise you. This one comes from Ginger. Shout out to Ginger. More fire. Every week is full of value. This podcast is like a toolbox, and I'm ready to go to work. Let's go. Listen, we love all the reviews. Keep leaving those reviews. The reason why we're on the charts is because of y'all. But you see who we have. You see who we have.
Timer.
Man,
what's happening?
Let me tell you, it is so. You will not see him except for on the S2S podcast. You won't see him doing no lives. You won't see him on social media. He doesn't have one. No, he doesn't have one. I promise you.
My bad.
Twitter C would be fired though.
2023.
I always thought Twitter C would be fire. That timeline would be fuego.
Yo, and he loves Twitter. That's the crazy part about it.
I do love Twitter.
That is the crazy part. But, see, how you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling great, man. I'm excited to be on. I know, you had to go with your A list. I'm just happy that you got to your B list, that I could be a part of, the podcast. So, I'm happy to be here, man. Better late than never.
All right.
I get it. Yo, Moose. Do we want to break down who he is based off the flight assessment? Do we want to start it off with the breakdown, and then we'll let the people know about it? What you want to do?
Yeah, no, we'll give a quick overview, and then they'll guess it as time goes on. We'll give them an opportunity to kind of be like, okay, which one is he? Right? Is he maybe he's a grounds crew? I don't know. Right? We'll see what it is.
So,
but no, man, go for it.
So if you don't know, if you're brand new, shout out to you. But we always go based off the flight assessment, right? We got 4 characters: the pilot, the flight attendant, the grounds crew, and the air traffic controller in 1:30 or however long he feels like doing it today. Moose, can you break down each and every single solitary one of them?
Absolutely, man. Look, as always, based off of the 4 dominant personality types that exist in the world. And we always know that certain behaviors, certain characteristics can begin to help us predict, okay, what positions can this person be placed in to have the most success. So we use the airport theme as always because we look at the pilot as the driver, the person who is responsible getting the passengers from point A to point B. And those of that pilot style are going to be goal-oriented, very A-type personalities that just want to push and not necessarily wait or slow down because they're going to fix it after they get to their destination, right? Then on your flight experience, you're going to walk to your seat, but you're going to see that there's a flight attendant there. Now, the flight attendant comes on with a different swag, right? They're charismatic, they're smiling, they're charming, very friendly. They're going to use more of their charisma and their personality to help build relationships and use that as the key to their entryway. Now, once you're in your seat, you're going to look out the window if you're sitting at a window seat, and you're going to see people with a blue vest on, maybe a green vest, orange vest. The grounds crews, right? Involved in a lot of different things, putting bags onto the plane, bringing up beverages and snacks up to the flight attendants, helping the pilot navigate from the gate to the runway or vice versa, right? So involved in a lot of different areas. That's why we often call them supportive, but really the glue that keeps the operation tight and together. And then last but not least, you got the air traffic controls up in the tower somewhere. You don't really see them or hear from them, but they're working on all the minor details. They're thinking about how do our decisions today impact our future down the line. So more strategic, but definitely every single one of these brings up the entire flight experience for you.
And so now we got to figure out what C is. So Moose, start it off.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I mean, definitely let us know a little bit more about the man behind the brand, right? Like before you even met E, I think people want to know that story of like, yo, who was CJ? And then how did you get an opportunity to start working with E, or how did that kind of relationship spark?
Yeah, you know what? I think when people have similar passions in life and operate in similar ways, you know, sometimes I think you both kind of climb and, you know, eventually you end up meeting. So for me, you know, I can trace, you know, everything I do with personal development, with giving back, with trying to enrich people's lives back to elementary school. You know, I didn't know it at the time, but I was one of the few students in school who was fortunate enough to have a father in their life, right? And so it was crazy. Like back in the day, you remember you would go on field trips from school and maybe you're going to the aquarium or the zoo or something like that. Well, you know, they always broke kids up into groups and you had to ride with somebody's parent, right? Parents would volunteer to drive. And every time it would be like a fight to see who could ride with my dad. And I used to be looking around like, yo, why y'all want to ride with my pops? Like, you know, in my mind, I'm like, I want to ride with somebody else's parents and like, you know, have a good time over there. I'm like, I'm with my dad all day. And I never really picked up on it till about probably third or fourth grade. I asked my dad, I was like, man, Dad, why everybody want to ride with you? And besides the fact that he would let us listen to 96.5, the hip hop station here in Lansing, he was like, look around, son. He said, how many other fathers do you see here at the field trip? And I looked around and I was like, man, not many. And he was like, they not around because they want to hear the radio. They want to ride with me because they look at me as the father figure they never had. And I remember in that moment feeling so blessed, like literally, guys, I was like, whoa, like I literally have a dad who's home every day when I come home from school. I literally have a dad who's volunteering at the school. Even when my dad was working nights at General Motors, he'd get off work at like 2:00 in the morning. The field trip would be at 7:15. And he would be there. Now, he would fall asleep, whatever the show was. You know what I'm saying? He was going to fall asleep when we got there. But he would always be there. And I remember feeling so blessed. And I was like, yo, I got to do my part to give back because there was absolutely nothing that I did to deserve that over another kid, right? Like, I didn't manifest my dad into my life. I was born into that. And so I always felt a sense of responsibility to give back. So around the time I was 17 years old, I went up to Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. And I asked them, I said, hey, I want to mentor somebody. And they said, yo, you're not even 18 yet. Come back when you're 18. I went back when I was 18. I got involved in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. Long story short, they started having me speak all over the country. I would go to different places and be an advocate on behalf of the organization. Got to Michigan State, continued along that same line of work. You know, I came in as a student who was kind of lost at Michigan State, didn't really know what was able to find my way, and I wanted to give back. So we started a mentoring program. During that time in my mentoring program, my dad, who was also still mentoring, met E, and they hit it off. And my dad was like, do you know my son? He does the same thing you do. And E was like, nah. So my dad called me like, yo, you need to go see this dude. And I went and saw E Monday morning on a random day. Didn't know who he was, never met him before. And I've been his right-hand man literally ever since that day. Like, that day, we hit it off. We went to Maxie's juvenile facility where there was juvenile offenders locked up, some serving long sentences. And we put in work that night. I spoke, he spoke. And since that day, you know, we've been rocking.
Y'all not gonna get this story anywhere else. But let me get into my side because so you met E. But at what point did you know, okay, this needs to be in everybody's crib? Like, this needs to be a household name. Like, at what time Was there a particular event? What really happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's funny, right? So I was a part of, shout out to the African American Student Mentoring Program, AASMP at Michigan State, right? So that was a program that I don't know if I was the president or I was on the board or whatever. I was kind of like an upper level member or whatever, right? And so when me and E met, E was running the Advantage, which is the program some of you may have heard about us talk about, that we eventually end up running together. But E was running the Advantage, which was very similar to what we were doing at AASMP. So when I met E, I wasn't just bouncing on AASMP immediately. I was like, yo, I had heard him speak at the juvenile facility and he killed it. You know what I'm saying? We both went in there and did our thing. But I just remember at AASMP, we would always have speakers come in and people would be like this. And you would see people like, you know, on their phones or like struggling to listen or kind of halfway falling asleep, getting bored. And I remember E came in there and he was with Jalen. And Jalen was a little fella. It's probably the first time I ever even met Jalen. And Jalen and E came in with his son and was like, all right, cool, I'm going to speak to the group. There were probably, let's say, 40 of us in there. And I'll never forget, it was kind of like a theater style seating. And he came up to me, and by this time I might have known him like maybe a week, right? Like literally like 7 days since I met him. And he brought Jalen to me and was like, hey, can my son sit with you? And Jalen was probably, I don't know, 8 or 9, maybe 10. And Jalen sat next to me and I was like, bet, I got it. And Jalen sat there, he had his coat on and he was just kind of like whatever. And I, talked to him, what's up, little man, that kind of thing. And he was like, yo, y'all ready? Everybody was like, yeah. And he went on an hour-long tear. And when I tell you, every single person in the auditorium was on the edge of their seats the whole time. They laughed, they cried, they were reflective, they took notes. He got a standing ovation at the end of it. I was like, okay, this is different. Like, this is different. I don't know what it is, but I never seen anybody move a crowd like that. Like, I literally have never seen somebody push people so hard and then be so receptive to it. And from that moment on, I was like, okay, we got to do, I don't know what we got to do with this, but we got to do something. Later that semester is when he did the Guru story.
Wow. Wow. So there wasn't even, that's incredible. So it's not like there was a big time period between, when you guys started in the Guru story. It's like you said later that semester, so it was almost like back to back.
Yeah. No, this was early on. I think, let's see, I had eventually, I would say less than a year for sure. Maybe not, let me say that same semester, but less than a year. I had transitioned out of the AASMP and decided that I wanted to, support E full time. So I finished my role there at AASMP. So maybe it was the next semester. I finished my role in the spring with AASMP, and then coming back in the fall is when I said, all right, cool, I'm down full time. I'm advantaged now. Yo, let's build this thing. And the reason I did that, AASMP was fine, but it was one of those programs, Moose, where like it was already established, right? Like it was already like it had been done since like Michigan State was allowing Black kids to come to school. And so they kind of had a rigid kind of way in which you were allowed to do things. The thing that intrigued me about what he started is he was just like in his office and was like, yo, I'm about to go down here and just wax deep. Y'all come out. And I was like, oh, that's more of my style because I could, we could throw alley-oops, you know what I'm saying? We could really do our thing. And so Nicky, it got to the point where we would go back and forth and just create. And I love the fact that I didn't have necessarily a structure in a box in which I had to stick into in order to do our thing. And so me and E really, this wasn't sponsored by the school. There was no department that was involved in it. It was literally us just being like, yo, let's do this.
That's good. That's good.
Flight assessment cues right there. The hey, don't put me in a box. All right, just saying.
Okay.
Come on.
Go ahead, Moose.
Yeah, no, and let me back that up. See if you could talk a little bit, man, about specifically leadership, because I think people, they really have a misunderstanding of leadership. They think like leadership, I got to be always the man out front. Like, and you've talked about it. Like you've presented for the mayor since 5th grade. Like you were just as much as somebody who can be the front line, but you choose to be like what you call support person, but still a leader nonetheless. Can you talk about like the type of confidence and just that style and swag that you got to have to really say, you know what? I'm going to stand behind and push the message because this is more meaningful.
Yeah, you know what? I think I didn't know that at first. Like, I just thought me and E were going to wax deep side by side forever. And then I saw that there was another need. And how I'm wired, Moose, I'm not wired for credit. I'm wired to get the job done. And I've always been like that. Like, I've never been one that was like, I need to be in the lights and I always just wanted to do whatever it took to help the team win. And so we had a gap, right? So obviously Carl, who many of you know, was there and he was down to, do the videography and, he would take pictures and do the audio and everything we needed. He was speaking. Well, there was nobody in that gap who could say, okay, let's get a plan. Let's be strategic. Let's move this thing. Let's make it into something. And so I kind of stepped behind the scenes and I love it now, Moose, because like even when I'll speak at our conferences and stuff like that, people will come up to me and be like, man, you're a great speaker. You shouldn't be nervous about speaking. You've been behind the scenes for so long. And I'm like, y'all have no clue that I've been speaking since I was born. Like I've had this gift since I was young. I chose to go behind the scenes, right? I chose to be the man behind the man because that was the job that was needed. It was never about the credit. We already had a dynamic speaker, right? I say all the time, having Shaq on your team is sweet. Having two Shaqs, not so much. Somebody got to be Kobe. And so I was willing to go, hey, I'll be Kobe. I'm not tripping. I'll be Kobe and I'll go over here and do what I'm supposed to do. And so that was always the goal, was what's best for the team? How do we get to the next level? And unfortunately for me at that time, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, it was me going behind the scenes. And so now Nicky laughs at me about not having social media. Nicky, I had social media. I had Facebook. But you know what? I said all of these things are distracting me from doing what I'm supposed to be doing, which is pushing ET to be a household name. That was our number one objective. Me having social media at the time was taking my focus away from that goal. And so I said, you know what, let me just get all the way locked in. And I got rid of social media for years. And now that I could probably have it back, I got so used to, I love it. You get some people who not on social media, Nicky, and they got like an attitude like, oh, I'm too good for social media.
Yes.
That's not me at all. I actually love social media. Social media has done incredible things for our company, our brand, our business, everything. I'll be honest. I just got so used to surviving and thriving without it in my role that I haven't figured out how to kind of transition back. And I'm kind of nervous because I've always been like behind the scenes in terms of like pushing E. And now that there's a demand for me to be on social media, and I get it, like, yo, we've been able to do some incredible things. And I know people want to hear from me. It's just about me saying, okay, how do I still maintain the number one goal and try to, do this thing? I never got in this to brand myself. I never got in this to have a bunch of followers for me. That was never the goal. And so I still haven't really figured out how to connect those two paths, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, we're still going to work on getting C on social media, though. You know what I mean?
We're working on it. It's definitely necessary. And again, I'm a ghost on social media, right? So like I can still log into E stuff. Nicky mentioned I love going on Twitter. I love watching inspirational stuff. I love checking out Nicky and Moose and Tobe and everybody else who rocks with us. I go see what the whole squad is doing. I totally get it. It's a necessary evil for a lot of people. And then sometimes, in Nicky and Moose's case, they take it and they just go crazy with it. Part of my other excuse now, Nicky, is I'm so old. I promise you, I'm so outdated. I'm like, man, I'm going to have my son teach me how to use Instagram. It's hard, Nicky. It's like a full-time job. I'm like, Lord, have mercy. So I'm working on it, though. We got the podcast Instagram. Go follow us there.
We do. S2S Podcast. We get into that. We'll get into that. But
absolutely.
See, people know and loved and was introduced by TGIM, right?
Yeah.
The kind of the same sequence as what you did for Tobe, but let's bring it back as far as where did TGIM come from? How did you come up with that schedule? Because that's what a lot of people struggle with. Like, okay, I have content, but how often do I put it out? Where do I put it out? Like in the early stages, you figured it out. So talk to the people about that process.
Yeah, it was funny, when you say where are the origins of TGIM, one of my favorite quotes is necessity is the mother of all invention, right? And so when there's a need for something, and this is a nugget for you entrepreneurs, if you find yourself saying, man, I wish I had this, or maybe if this only existed or that only existed, there's usually money in that follow-up, right? And so it was really simple. So E, myself, and Carl had started rocking, right? And we decided that, hey, we working at Michigan State, but we're going to try to build this dream. We're going to try to go all in. And so what would happen is Monday through Friday, we'd meet up at the office. We'd be up there at 7 a.m., right? Ready to rock and roll. Well, then Friday at 5 hit, and E had a whole family he had to go home to. Carl had a girl. I might have been single at the time or just, kind of dating or whatever. So I didn't really have a whole lot going on the weekends, just hanging. But from Friday at 5 to Monday morning, I would not see E or Carl. And so we used to be kind of like sad on Friday afternoon because it was like, man, like we can't build the dream. We kind of just got to chill. And, I wouldn't want to be calling E and, messing up his family time or whatever. So every Monday morning when we would come back in, we came in the building like, literally like, let's go. I've been chomping at the bit all weekend to get in here. However, our coworkers looked like the Walking Dead on Monday.
Straight
and we would come in literally and be like, yo, why is everybody pissed off? I never worked in corporate before or like an environment where people had a 9 to 5. I didn't even, to be honest with you, it might sound naive. I didn't even know that people didn't really like going to their gig like that. Like I didn't come from that. So Monday morning, people would be pissed off and we'd be walking around the office and people wouldn't even barely speak to you. But yet on Friday, it was potlucks. It was like high energy music playing out of every office. And I'm like, whoa. And E was like, man, it's crazy how people are more excited about the end of the week than the beginning of the week. The beginning of the week is where you build your dreams. And so he was like, man, Mondays, are popping. And he was like, yo, thank God it's Monday. And he was like, yo, we need to just start delivering some content to people on Monday morning. And so it was this Magical Moments video that we did. And E was like, yo, we're just going to put this out on Monday. And then let me go back a little bit to your question about where we were going to put it out. Mm-hmm. Right around the same time, this little company called YouTube had come out. And I remember at that time, there was barely anybody on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, it was all like videos of like kids sledding down a hill, like for like 30 seconds and it would be over. But I noticed that it was just like random people. And I'm taking y'all back to the origins. I told you I'm old. It would be just like random videos and like kids and like dogs and cats. And I was like, yo, what is this? And I said to Carl, yo, can we get our videos on this thing? Like, how do you get a video on this thing? I literally had no clue. Carl had no clue. And Carl was like, yo, give me a second. That was Carl's thing. He would always be like, yo, give me a second. I'll figure it out. And Carl at the end of the day was like, yeah, I think I know how to get, because mind you, we always understood that content was king. Every time E was speaking, everywhere we go, we have footage for days. Yeah. We just didn't have anywhere to put it. We probably were thinking about making DVDs at the time, right? Like something like that. So then once Carl figured out YouTube, I can't remember the exact first video he put up, but one of the first videos that he put up was a video that we put up from one of our speaking engagements. And I remember putting it up and it got like 3 hits. And I think it was us just checking on the video, right? But I remember thinking at that moment, man, we're going to make E a household name. This is the platform that could do it. And from that moment on, I was like, Carl, make sure we upload everything to this joint. So we uploaded, you see now, if you go back, I think it's the BTC I Dare You Pay. We got like advantage videos from way back. Yeah. And even like E speaking from jump. So that was the delivery method. And then the TGIM was born out of, like I said, necessity. We needed it. We were like, yo, this is terrible. Why are people all depressed on Monday and happy on Friday? Like Monday is the day to make it shake. And so that's kind of the chicken and the egg there, if you will.
Let me do a quick follow-up, Moose. Did you think that YouTube would get as big as it is?
So I knew E was special. Like I really did. Like, yo, like I knew that dude had a gift that would transcend the world if they were to find out. To say that I knew we were going to be number one, I think would be a little presumptuous at the time. Right. But I did feel like at least E would be known in the space, if you will, because I was watching other people in the space and I was like, yo, he's better than him. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing I did with Tobe. I was like, yo, he's better than him. There's just not enough people that know it. So what's CJ's job? To make sure they know it. And so did I think we would be number one, a multi-million-dollar company? I hoped. I don't know that I would have put my life on it back then. But yeah, I would say I knew E was special, man, and I knew it was something the world definitely needed.
Moose.
Yeah, see,
What's up,
so I'm
Moose?
always amazed, man, at a time where people have access to all types of information. They struggle to put out content or any level of information. It's almost like they're overloaded. Where were you getting some ideas or a lot of your ideas behind the branding and like the strategic placement behind the content and just moving that needle at a time where you said like YouTube was premature? Like where were you getting even any of those ideas from?
So you know what's funny, Moose? I was able to gather those ideas because I stopped speaking. And I want to make sure people catch that, right? Like there was a point in time when I would speak every time he would speak. When I stopped that and I went, okay, what's needed? What skill set do I have that I could bring to the table? I said, yo, all right, cool. Let me do this branding thing, right? Because I just said he's the best speaker I've ever heard in my life. And no disrespect to any other speaker out there, but I'm looking at cats who making millions of dollars and he's better than them. So I said, how do we bring this information to the forefront? So I said, okay, we're at a time, I'm a hip hop head, right? We're at a time, he's a hip hop head. He wears Jordans. I'm like, okay, I know we got something cool. Like at least we're going to look cool. E with the fitted cap, you know, the hoodies, the Jordans. I was like, okay, I noticed the trend, Moose, that hip hop was starting to grow. I don't think people understand that. I'm 38 years old. I just turned 38. And even when I was little, you would never have a Nicki Minaj on Good Morning America. You feel me? Like you would never have like Future on David Letterman or, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff didn't happen. But I started noticing as I got older and as we started going further with the brand that like, whoa, the world is kind of bending towards hip hop as a mainstream genre. And so that was my first indicator that, yo, let's build something cool. The other thing I think was looking at like where the culture was going as a whole with music and sports and entertainment. You got to think like Michael Vick was getting hot. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was just energy all around some of the culture. And E was that. E was that in the motivational speaking lane. What I thought of, you know, what LeBron was for hoop and what, you know what I mean? Like I really looked at E as that. And so really the inspiration for my content just came from looking at the culture at that time and being like, yo, that's dope. How I knew I had that skill set, Moose, I'm going to be real with you. Like I always loved music. And one of my favorite hobbies used to be I would go buy a CD like it's the day it came out. And let's say it was a Death Row, a Snoop CD or who knows, even like Drake or something like that. And I would go buy it. And my favorite thing to do used to be able to listen to every song and I would pick the next few singles. Every single time. I was just like, yo, this is hot and this is going to win. And I would do it. And like my boys and my brothers would be like, yo, how do you do it every single time? You know exactly which one is going to be hot. And again, maybe that's just my God-given gift because I didn't do anything to necessarily like work on that, but I did take that gift and hone it. So by the time I gave out like certain videos, like people, let's go through the list, a couple of them. What's your why? How did I know that was going to blow up? Because it was hot to me. UOU, how do you know that's going to, it was hot to me. Nothing funny. You know what I mean? Secret to success, like greatness is upon you. They were dope to me. And usually I'm a pretty harsh judge, a harsh critic. So if I like it, surely the world is going to like it. And so that's kind of how I evolved into this role where I was kind of in charge of like, no, that ain't it, or that's it, or drop the music at this time, or crescendo the music at this time, or adding the image of this, or adding the image of that. It was just kind of what felt good to me based on, you know, all the culture that I had taken in over my life.
I'm gonna just keep doing these air horns. It don't even make sense.
You know what I'm saying? I feel good when you hear it. It make me hype. Make me want to bust the 16 real quick.
Me. All right. So you're building the brand. People are wanting E for their gigs, everything like that. The bag is coming in. You made sure the hat, the J's, shirt, the hoodie was the situation. Mm-hmm. Now, you were presented in a few times where the bag was kind of high and they said, hey, We want you to change some things. I want you to talk to the people about when certain bags are presented to them that's making them change their brand image. What should they do? Because you went about it in a different way, and we know E in a certain image and in a certain light because you said no to certain things. So I know certain people are given opportunities right now, especially with the wave of social media, and a lot of influencers are coming up and everything. So talk to the people about, certain bags are going to be presented and what you should do.
Yeah, so I got to start by being 100% honest. We were on the grind, and I remember E was like, yo, we getting like 5,000, 6,000 a speech, something like that, killing it. And he was like, yo, it's time we get up into the 5-figure mark. And I was like, bet, I'm not scared of a challenge. I'm trying to get to 10,000. And this company called and was like, hey, we want E to come to our banquet, whatever, and, our corporate luncheon, something like that. And I was like, okay, bet. And they were like, yo, we just have one request. This is like a formal event. Can he wear a suit? And I was like, y'all got the 10,000? She was like, yeah, we got the 10,000. I was like, bet, let's go. And I was about to tell E, put on the suit, dog, like $10,000. You got to understand something. We got it out the mud. I'm like, 10 G's is 10 G's. And E was like, oh, no, tell him I can't do it. And I was like, what? I said, bro, they said 10,000.
First of all, you're not going to speed past that like you didn't just say what you just said.
They said 10,000. So I said, okay, E, you tripping, bro. I will go there with a tuxedo and serve drinks for 10,000. And he was like, yo, he reminded me of what I said, in that you said we were going to build the brand like this. You said that we were going to be, what LeBron is, the hoops, and what the Fab Five was, the basketball, and, all of these things. You said that we were going to be that to the speaking industry. And now the check got you reconsidering. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm tripping. And so I called the company back, and I was like, yo, he can't do it. And they were like, what? I was like, he's not going to wear a suit. And they were like, well, we're going to have to go with somebody else then. And I said, all right, cool. About a year later, and I promise you, I'll never forget, I was still answering the phone at this time, booking E's gigs. I got a call, and we were way above 10,000 at that time. And they called, and everything was good. And I got the bag, let's say it's 15, 20,000. And she called back and was like, yo, we just got one request. And I promise you, I had a deja vu moment. And I was like, oh, man, she about to ask E to put on the suit. She was like, can you make sure he wears the hat and the T-shirt and the tennis shoes? Because that's how we all know him. And she was like, if he walks in here with a suit, nobody even recognizes him. And I said, wow. 1 year later, because we stuck to our guns, not only was it not a liability, it had actually turned into an asset. And so that from that moment on, it was like, no, this is who we are. If you like it, cool. If it's for you, bet, let's go. And a lot of you out there will be presented with bags to do things that go against your name, image, likeness. And we're dealing with a lot of it with Tobe right now. Tobe is getting offers from all over the planet in big bags. But now that we understand that there's no bag worth selling your soul, there's no bag worth sullying your brand, it's easy to turn down now.
You got the bomb on that one.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna let that rock.
Wow.
I'm gonna let that rock.
Yeah, crazy, man. Crazy. True story. True story.
Wow. One of the realest bars, and you said many. I'm not even gonna hype it up. You said many. But one of the realest bars I've ever heard you say was, everyone wants their C, but they're not an E. And I was wow, that is some serious stuff, right? Like everyone's out here like, oh, I want my 2-man. I want my team. I need a team, but you're not an E-level talent.
Yeah.
Talk to the people, like, how do you decipher if you need to work harder, if you need to join a team? Like, what are those things that would help somebody to understand if they're navigating those waters right now?
So, and the reason Moose is asking that, he's heard me say it before, is like people always like, we'll be at conferences and stuff and be like, yo, how do I find my C? And by C, we mean, my name, CJ, not like a C as in ground script, right?
Right.
So, I just want to make sure we're clear, Moose. I don't want to, we don't need any user confusion. So people would be, and I remember, Moose, it was like, they would say it like every conference, and then it started to rub me the wrong way. I started to hear it different. It sounded like nails on the chalkboard. And I was like, wait a minute. So y'all think it's just a ton of me out there running around like I'm just like that disposable where it's just like, oh, I need to find a C and he'll just blow my brand up. I'm like, it doesn't work like that. If you're going, and what I was trying to tell them is if you're going to find a high level partner, you need to be high level. And most people were mid-grade or low level, and they're saying they're looking for a C. And I used to be looking at them like, wait, you would be my C. Don't trip. Like, you're not on that level. And notice what I said, on that level. E didn't have money when I met him. That's not what I was interested in. E had a gift, and he was using it like none other. So if you have not found your team, you're probably, one, not in your gift. You're probably, two, not executing at a high level in that gift. And if you don't know what your gift is and you don't have a gift, you shouldn't even worry about building a team. You should worry about joining a team.
Wow.
Does that make sense? I just want to make sure that makes sense because, again, people think it's something wrong with joining a team. Like everybody, oh, I need to build this empire. You don't have nothing. So even though I always dog E and say he was a 3 when I met him, the truth of the matter is I was a 0. So when you're at a 3, you can attract a 0. When E got to a 7, he could attract a 5, right? And so that's kind of the law and how it goes. And people want to be a 3 and you looking to attract a 9 and wondering why your team ain't coming. Go join a team, build yourself into a 9, then watch your 5, 4, and 3s come flocking to you.
Facts.
That's good.
I don't even know if I should follow up, but let's stay on team. See, what was some of the first picks that you made when the brand started moving as far as building your team? Like now there's traction and people will say, okay, I'm ready for a team. I know what it takes, everything like that. But what were some of your first picks as far as establishing your team?
Yeah, you know, it's funny, man. Moose, he's done such an incredible job, and Nicky, yourself, and what you guys are doing with the flight assessment and things like that. But I'll be honest, I had no idea how to pick a team back in the day. So Carl, who is, you know, my right hand and, you know, kind of, you know, just the glue guy in the squad, you know, he was around and he was exactly what I needed, and I didn't even know it. Like I'm saying, Carl was literally sitting right next to me every day, all day. And me and E didn't even realize that he was the missing link to what we actually needed. So when you think about picking a team, I think our natural inclination is to go find people who look like us, who talk like us, who think like us, who do what we do, who dynamic like we are, who want to host podcasts like we are. And guess what? That's actually the worst person to join your team. You're looking for someone who can actually plug the gaps that you have. So I think when you think about building a team and who you actually need, write down the top 10 things that you do poorly and look for somebody who does those things well. E, as great a speaker as he wasn't dynamic in terms of leading the team down a straight path. E got excited. He'd be all over the place. One thing that I could do is lock in on the fact that, no, the goal is to make E a household name. So I took that role. I was able to plug that gap for him. What don't I like doing? I don't like dealing with video. I don't want to be sitting there editing. I don't like, details like that. Carl didn't mind doing that. And so when you're building your team, it's contrary to what most people would think. You're not looking for people who are just like you. You're looking for people who are actually the opposite of you. So Carl was actually the one that made our squad go, even though Carl would have broken into a million pieces back then if you made him get up and say his name in front of 1,000 people. But he didn't mind doing the dirty work behind the scenes. And so as you're building your team, your job is to literally go, what am I missing? What would be helpful to me right now? So that's why when I look at Moose and I would look at Nicky, you guys have, again, been an incredible asset to our team. Why? Because as popping as E was, our social media game was very basic, very basic. It was, I'd say, even towards poor based on who E was. So Nicky saw a gap, and I said, as soon as I met Nicky and I figured out what she did and how she did it, I was like, oh my, and we so dumb. I think we had Nicky assisting somebody who she was better than until we finally were like, oh wait, Nicky's the secret sauce. And let's get them out the way and get Nicky in, And so then Moose comes in, and Moose is very like he's very calculated. He thinks everything out. He was so Moose is now actually again. Moose, I'll always be E's right hand in spirit, but from a day-to-day standpoint, now based on where we're at as a company, Moose is a much more natural fit as E's right hand now as a number one in the world, just day to day, because he can help move E detailed oriented throughout the day. Whereas I'm an idea guy, I push the vision forward. Well, guess what? E's already number one. So me and E talking every day, we just pumping each other up and coming up with $1 million ideas. We're not necessarily in the weeds doing details together all day. So Moose actually makes the perfect right hand for E now based on his skill set. And so I would say as you're recruiting, find somebody who's a fit in terms of their values. And then skill set wise, you want to make sure that they can do something that you can't.
Almost messed that up.
Just keep them coming at this point.
Listen, I'm just going to hold down the button. I'm just going to hold down the button half the time.
Yeah.
Whatever. Go ahead, Moose.
Yeah.
Shoot. See, as driven as you are, you're one of the most giving people that I have ever met. And by giving, I mean with your platform, always willing to duplicate and inviting people. It's like, oh, you're talented. Come on in. And I know there's a level of confidence that comes with that, but there's also just a different mentality in terms of like each one teach one, right? Like I saw you do it with Inky. I saw you do it with Tobe, Jemal, many others that you're not afraid to talk to us about. What point do you start getting in the game where you're like, all right, we actually have something here. We need to start pulling people onto our platform. And at some point duplicating what we have like you've done with Mal and Tobe.
You know what's funny, man? Jay-Z, Hov said, if everybody, I'm going to clean it up, but he said, if everybody in your clique is rich, your clique is rugged, nobody will fall because everybody will be each other's crutches. And I promise you, that's one of and I'm a Hov fan. That's probably the line that stuck in my head more than any other line because it made so much sense. It was like, yo, if I'm able to reach a certain level, that's one thing. But if the people around me are able to get it at a high level and we got a team that's at a high level, how can you fall? Literally, how can you fall if everybody in your team is getting to it, if everybody's on? And so I started looking outside of just us and going, all right, cool. Who else is like-minded, who we have this formula that can work, that can get to the next level? I promise you, to the Lord knows, I hope I don't never need to go to Tobe and be like, hey, bro, I got to work some things out. I need a job over here. Like, come on. Tobe like, yo, you the doggone CEO of the company. Let's roll, right? Had I not done that for Tobe, and see what some people do is they try to just get people like a little piece and keep them suppressed down here. Well, guess what? God forbid anything happen to you, and you're the only breadwinner in your crew. Now you going down and everybody busted. So I figured, hey, I want everybody to be as big as humanly possible, take their game to the next level, be millionaires and billionaires and run billion-dollar companies. That way, if there's any fall off, if there's any unfortunate circumstances, COVID hit, look how crazy the world is right now, y'all. Look how crazy. Yeah. And now we're in a position where we understand that we can help people go to the next level and we can help them stay there. And God forbid, like I said, we run into a tragedy, everybody's able to be each other's crutches.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I'm just going to keep holding this button. This is what we're going to do. Tobe and Mal, right?
Yeah.
What to you, because some people are going to be like, I'm the next Tobe, I'm the next Mal, like, get me next. Like, what made them stand out? Because we could clearly see E. Like,
yeah.
And we could clearly see Tobe, but I want you to break down what was so special about Tobe and what was so special about Mal, because Mal was killing it before off social media. Now they're like, where has he been all this life? Like, and he's killing it. What was about those two?
So, it's funny, man. Like, I see people and they get stuck on what everybody else is doing, right? Like, they literally look around and go, what's that person doing? What's that person doing? Oh, Toby's doing this. Jamal's doing this. I'm going to do that. And what is different from me and how I view the world and most people is I always look at what are they not doing, right? So like, it's good to study people, but like, for instance, when E and I started, I looked at Tony Robbins and said, okay, dude is killing it. He's the #1 motivational speaker in the world. I didn't say, what is he doing that we can copy? I said, okay, I'm gonna look at all the things he's doing, but what is he not doing? You know what Tony Robbins wasn't doing? He wasn't giving out free content. He didn't have content on YouTube that was available for immediate consumption. And so I always looked at, Nicky, what are people not doing? So when I heard Tobe rap, I had never in my life, and this, y'all please go look it up. Somebody fact check me because I could be wrong. I have never in my life heard somebody rap and been that dope, never swear and never say the N-word in their music and not be considered a Christian rapper. Maybe, again, maybe it exists. And this is no knock to Christian rappers. There's no knock to people who swear. I just noticed that Tobe's music was jamming the same way like Outkast was jamming, the same way that Big Crit was jamming at the time. And they just did a song together that's crazy. But I noticed that he had a very similar swagger to these people, but I noticed he never cussed. And I said, whoa, okay, nobody's doing that. So I found Tobe in the not doing. Once we started this up, I was like, yo, this is the not doing. If you look at Jemal, every other entrepreneur that you saw that made millions of dollars, what did they do? They quit their job and they were full-time entrepreneurs. What did Mal do? Mal became a millionaire at the age of 26 and didn't retire until he was 41. He worked as a police officer for 15 years as a multi-millionaire. I'd never seen anybody do that before, Nicky. Everybody else was, again, worked their job, got their millions, quit their job, went on to do whatever. And so Mal was in the not doing. And it's so crazy that everybody wants to just go and copy exactly what's being done, where my advice and my energy always says, okay, we can glean a couple of things from that. But at the end of the day, what's not being done? And you'll find a lot more success in the not doing than the doing.
Moose.
I hope people are starting to get some clues around what C might be on the flight assessment right now.
Hey, Moose, we may have to break that down now. We may have to. We almost at the hour mark. Let's break that down because I want to have like random conversations as well. So let's do that.
Fair.
So,
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. I'll let you lead it out.
No. You got it.
Okay.
Because I want you to break down the certain words that he said.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just make an assumption here, C, and tell me if I'm right. Early on in the episode, you said, I was not trying to get boxed into any structure. So is it safe to say that you are not? Yeah. That you are not in air traffic control. Is it safe to say?
Oh, very safe. Very safe.
Very safe. Yeah.
Very safe.
All right, so I'm going to say, let's put this over here. He's supportive, but he doesn't deal with certain things, right? He's not fully like in the background per se. Like my man will still get on stage if he needs to. Okay, so is it safe to say that you are not a grounds crew?
That's safe to say. Very safe. Another safe guess.
Very safe. I like that. Very safe. Very safe. Yep. But let me ask you this. Before we give the people the final answer, I've actually had some sources tell us that you do have some very flight attendant tendencies, like strong flight attendant tendencies. But it's I don't know. I'm just wondering, can we
got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answer.
That would be true. Yes, I do have some flight attendant tendencies. Yes, for sure.
Okay.
I just don't like to let them out because when I do, the staff get loose. They get loosey goosey. So I like to stay on brand so that everybody feels like they need to get work done and they can't just party all day.
Love it. Love it. Tell the people, man. Tell the people what are you on the assessment?
So yeah, no, I'm a pilot. So I'm a pilot first, and then my second highest. You know what I'm saying? Come on, Nicky, let them know.
We
a
partying
pilot
now.
first, and then I'm a flight attendant. So I have a very high pilot, and right under that, not too far away from that, is the flight attendant.
Yourself. Halfway. Take a.
But you know what's funny? I will say this. Because me and E are partners, and E is such a high flight attendant that I end up operating more in my pilot than I do my flight attendant, especially as it pertains to work.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Like somebody got to be bad cop, right? Like you got it only works
real.
with a bad cop.
He's been banned from the meetings, people. He's been banned from the meeting. We just had a meeting. He actually showed up. I was very shocked.
I did. I come to one a year. I come to one meeting a year.
That was the only meeting. That was the only.
Yes, I apologize.
All right. So Z,
Yeah.
I wanted to have this conversation with you.
Okay.
So verses, real quick. Verses.
Yeah.
Gucci and Snow. What was your thoughts on that? Like, as far as a branding standpoint.
Yeah, you know what? I thought it was okay. So I'm glad I didn't know we were going to talk about this, but I'm actually glad.
That's why I said random.
You know what's crazy? Again, I don't get to talk about this on our podcast because it's the AARP podcast. I'm on there with a bunch of muscle relaxer, joint pain, old guys who don't even know what verses is. Matter of fact, Maul told me he didn't even know any Gucci songs. I said, what? And he barely knew any Jeezy songs. So I was like, okay, I can't even talk to y'all about this. But anyway, so I actually think both gentlemen did incredible by their brand, right? If you're like, so I live in Atlanta. I've spent a ton of time in Atlanta over the last, 15, 20 years or what have you. So I kind of know the backstory, right? Now, a lot of people know the backstory, but I've been around the energy. Well, I think it was great because Gucci is known as the boogeyman in Atlanta. Like Gucci is that presence of like, yo, when he comes around, people are like, yo, he's here. While Jeezy, definitely, was that guy in his past. We've seen Jeezy's progression into, this kind of, new guy, this entrepreneur. You even heard him talk about the real estate stuff. You saw he was the one who extended the olive branch to Gucci. And even though Gucci came in there like, yo, I'm doing these diss records, I'm going to be, reckless and all of that. Jeezy stayed in character and was like, yo, I feel you. That's where you at. And this is where I'm at. And so it allowed Gucci to keep that same boogeyman presence that makes him so, everybody so enamored by his aura. He was able to keep that. And Jeezy was able to stay in his new, I'm a businessman, a CEO. I'm not on that foolishness anymore. He was able to stay in his lane by being like, you know what? Go ahead. You perform those diss records. If you see Jeezy didn't perform, stay strapped. He was like, no, I'm good on that. That's old. I'm over that. And so both of them were able to keep brand integrity while still drawing a bunch of attention to their music and their brand. So I thought it was incredible.
Yeah, I think the storyline, because clearly they knew that they were cool at the end. They had to stage that. So the fact that they kept that whole, like, there's still beef, you're locked in. It kept what? 1.8 million, the highest on IG. So the fact that the fact that they kept it there, I was like, oh, I gotta talk to C about this, because there's still storytelling with battle. There's still storytelling with even an IG live, like any piece of content. Because how do you keep people on that? So I wanted your take on the whole battle, because these verses keep getting better and better. And I don't think people break it down from a branding standpoint.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was incredible. I enjoyed it. And I think, like I said, if Gucci would have came in there and been too nice, he probably would have lost a little bit of that boogeyman aura that makes him him. If Jeezy would have came in acting super tough, people would have been like, oh, I thought you was this changed man. So I think both of them did an incredible job and represented their brands and themselves, in a great light.
I had to get C to talk about something current because he doesn't do it much.
I
Doesn't
love
do
it.
much.
I feel like a caged animal. Ask me
He
something
said
else.
I'm on. Once he said I'm on with the muscle relaxer guys, that had me
Yeah.
laughing. That was hilarious.
Come on,
I
man.
promise
Come
you.
on, man.
I promise
You know,
you.
these guys, they on the podcast talking about how they got to stretch before they eat. I'm like, all right.
Listen.
No, shout out to my guys. I love my guys, man.
Yep. And
Sure, for
announcement time, people. So S2S podcast, that's where you can get C and E and Maul and Carl, all the old people. You go to S2S
Yes.
podcast. No, it's a
Yes.
great podcast. Personal
We will
development.
not be
all
talking
day.
about Gucci and Jeezy. I
Yeah,
can
you won't
that.
get that there. You won't. That's why I had to do it over here. On top of that, every Tuesday, new time, right, Moose? 7:30?
Yep. 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
Yep, Eastern. 6:30 Central Time, sometime West Coast time. It's a new time, I don't know. But Facebook Live, we're going live, me and Moose. Question and answer, a preview of what's next, just getting to know us a little bit better. So Facebook.com/Nicky and Moose, Nicky and Moose everywhere. Go follow us. But see, what is next? What's next?
Before I say what's next, I'm gonna hijack the podcast a little bit and just say that, man, I'm extremely, extremely proud of you two. I just looked at my phone. I was looking for an email from Moose the other day, and I'm gonna embarrass Moose. But I found an email that says, "Good morning, CJ. Attached is the file with all the additional information." And Moose sent me a whole breakdown of how he was gonna sell us some iPhone cases. This email is dated from June 4th, 2013. June 4th,
Back in the day.
2013. So you're talking about, man, 6.5 years ago. And, you know, let me say something. And here's the crazy thing. Moose was just trying to add value at any point. And I love you for that. You know, Moose, you again, man, have been such a blessing to this squad. And, you know, we keep our circle very tight. But literally for years, Moose was just coming around and he was like, yo, anything I can do to add value, I'm going to do. He did that at a high level, as you can see from cell phone cases. Now he done worked his way to being E's right hand. And I'm extremely proud of you, brother. You always came around trying to see what you could give and not what you could get. And it's great to have you in the family. Nicky, let me tell you something, man. Nicky is like the little sister that I always wanted and never had. I mean that. Like the first time I saw Nicky, she was just fresh. Like I seen her and I'm like, yo, she is like, as y'all can see, Nicky is just like New York cool, right? Like everything about her is so cool. And I saw her and I was like, yo, I see you with them J's on. First words I said to her. And she was like, oh, okay, no doubt. And then I promise you, it was probably, I don't even know how, still to this day, I got a package delivered to the crib and it was a brand new pair of Jordans. And I was like, yo, and it was like, you know, from Nicky, I appreciate you acknowledging the swag or something like that. And I was like, whoa. And since that day, you know, Nicky's been a part of the family. Y'all see what she does, the information she gives out. She does it in a way that's so cool, so electric, so easy to follow. And I'm just, you know, extremely happy to have you on the team as well. Y'all are amazing and have been, you know, incredible parts to the ETA family. And I love you both dearly for it. So sorry about that. What's the question?
Wow.
What's next? See, what's next?
Look, I got Nicky to blush. As cool as Nicky is, I got her to blush a little bit.
It's the lighting.
Come
It's the
on,
lighting.
y'all.
It's daytime.
That
It's
ain't
daytime.
easy
It's
to do.
lighting. You know what I mean? It's the lighting.
Yeah, you know what? What's next is more the same. They say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. We are on a path to, you know, taking this thing to another level. I got some things in the works that I won't speak on just yet, but everything we do, you can guarantee it's going to feel like this. It's going to feel genuine. It's going to feel organic. It's going to be something that is pleasing to the people. It's going to be something that doesn't feel like we're trying to take anything from you, but we're trying to give, man. I know a lot of people come on social media, they come on, you know, podcasts, and they take. But you will always get our pure heart, and I say our because this is a family now, You'll get our pure heart, you'll get our best information, and you get our best foot forward every single time. So we'll continue to give that in 2021. Hopefully this COVID dies down. We can get back to seeing people in the flesh, dapping them up, hugging them. But until then, we're going to keep holding y'all down online. And bigger and better things in 21.
I was trying to get the exclusive. I was trying to get what's next. He didn't want to give it. He didn't want to give it.
I got something in the works, man. But it's Thanksgiving. I'm at my mama's house. You know what I'm saying? It's the time for turkey. We don't want to get into too much business right now.
We were trying. It's all right, people. We're gonna get him back. Look, thank you for being on.
Thank y'all, man.
As the only child, like, you are the big brother I never had. For real. I've learned so much. Everything really is a reflection of you and E. Let's be real. And so I appreciate the platform. I appreciate the talks and everything and the support. So it was only right that we put you on the podcast, because that's the only way we know how to give back. You know what I mean?
Hey, man. Love y'all, man. Love y'all.
Moose.
We love you too, man. What a blessing, bro. What a blessing. I mean, always, constantly, like I said, the most driven person, but the most giving person. And I think there's no better balance to want to walk with and hold you accountable and push us to be better. So we're beyond grateful for you. And again, thanks for joining us, man.
Let's go,
Moose,
man.
do you
Y'all
want to
keep
do the
rocking,
final
man.
words? Do you want to do the final words?
No, absolutely not.
I was just
Let me
sure.
say this real quick.
I gotta give you the clap.
There's at least 3 times that I went up to C and I said, I never want to even touch a microphone because of how you speak. Like, every time I'm just like, this dude is so good. So no, C, I'm going to plead the 5th and pass it to you, man. Close us out.
Final words.
Hey, listen, man, find your gift. All right. Your gift is something that God gave you. How do you know what it is? What comes easy to you? That's hard for most. All right, I'm going to say it again. What comes easy to you? That's hard for most. Can you draw? Can you sing? Can you act? Can you put words together? Can you create? Are you visual? What are you? Find that first and then double down on that thing, man. And you'll be exactly where Nicky and Moose are. All right, at the top. Love y'all.